What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Basketball with Tom. We got a good one for you today. Kind of sound like Steve Harvey there, on Family Feud. What's up, everyone? I'm Steve Harvey. Well, we got a good one for you today. We got this family and that family. I don't know why I did that, but anyway. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Basketball with Tom. I just want to thank everyone who has rocked with me so far, who has watched my episodes, be it on YouTube, the videos, listen to it on the audio, on YouTube or on SoundCloud. I appreciate all of you. And today we got some great basketball content to get into. There's been really a lot of great stuff that's been going on in the NBA, and I like to be able to get to it. Now, one of the things that I like to talk about is surprising teams. Now, the good and the bad side. So, surprising in terms of being impressive, surprising in terms of being disappointing. And I'm going to name 3 teams from each category. I'm going to tell you why, and in fact, I feel they're surprising. The first surprise to me, I'm going to talk about the impressive side. The first surprise for me is definitely the Indiana Pacers. Now, when the trade initially happened for Paul George to be traded to OKC for Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis, initially the trade was seen as Paul George being traded for a bag of chips. And I was just like, well, Jesus, people really don't value Oladipo and Sabonis like that. And for me, I never thought Oladipo was bad, but he really did not perform well in OKC. Now, whether you want to say that is a result of Russell Westbrook, you want to say that's a product of playing alongside Russell Westbrook, or whether he just did not feel like he was capable of shining in that opportunity, regardless of whichever side you want to go with, the truth of the matter is Oladipo did not perform very well. And Sabonis was starting to look like a bust. And people were saying, oh, he's absolutely nothing like his father, Arvydas, who played for Portland back, I think, in the 90s. But what we started to see is that, put in the right situation, Oladipo and Sabonis were both able to prosper. Now, I'm going to put the stats up on the screen. I'll show you what each of them have done. But especially Oladipo, he has propelled himself into all-star status. And that's something none of us really saw. I mean, except for maybe fans of Oladipo and even Oladipo himself. But no one really saw that the Pacers would actually do well. In my mind, I didn't think the Pacers would be bottom of the East, but I thought they were going to fall in the playoffs, alongside with, like I said last week, with Chicago when they lost their stars. But what we saw instead, Oladipo rose to the occasion and is shining in Indiana. Basically, Bankers Life Fieldhouse is now Home Depot. You see what I did there? I'm not the first one to come up with that joke, by the way. But point is, Oladipo is now thriving in this situation, and so is Sabonis. Sabonis, I think he's coming off the bench. He's putting in a lot of work, and he's thriving in the system whereby he's given a set role, given a specific role, and is able to really do the things that the team asks of him, and is really able to play up to his potential. I think that's amazing. Alongside Darren Collison, going back to the starting lineup, Oladipo with a backcourt partner of Darren Collison, because he's not a ball-dominant point guard. Oladipo's really his strengths are really able to shine, and he's able to display his offensive talent, his skill, essentially he's able to play his game and play it in an effective manner alongside Darren Collison. I think they work very well together, and then he's able to really not only just propel his own stats and his own personal game rise, but propel his team to wins. To the point that now, if I can recall this correctly, gotta get the tablet, you know what I'm saying? To the point that now they're 6th in the East, and it's amazing to see how well Indiana has done despite losing one of the top players in the league in Paul George. So Indiana, number 1 in terms of surprising teams. Number 2 is Miami, and when I initially thought about the East, because I made initial predictions at the beginning of the year, you guys didn't know about them. I hadn't been doing episodes then. I say beginning of the year, I mean like beginning of the basketball season last year in October. I predicted Miami would still make the playoffs and build off the success they had from last year. But I saw them as a 6th seed. I didn't think they're going to do that much farther because I thought Milwaukee, Washington would be better. And perhaps there's still moments for Milwaukee Milwaukee and Washington to still propel themselves into, top tier category in the East. But now Miami has stepped up and has taken but instead of Washington and Milwaukee essentially just being there in those top 4, top 5 position, Miami has propelled themselves in the wake of Milwaukee and Washington not doing so well, or not doing as well as we thought, and has now taken up the reins and put themselves in the top 4 contention in the East, to the point where if they have home court advantage, that will be a tough out for any of the teams below them, especially if it's a Washington or Milwaukee, people that we expected to see being there. So right now, Miami, because of their gritty players, like these guys, they're not all-stars. I mean, you want to say people like Goran Dragic, he may be borderline all-star, Hassan Whiteside, borderline all-star, but it's not just them. It's the collection of players. Both Johnsons, Tyler and James, Josh Richardson. Well, Justice Winslow, he's been in and out because of injury, and so has Whiteside, really. They've both been in and out because of injury. Bam Adebayo. And this man is a revelation for Milwaukee, not Milwaukee, but for Miami. Dion Waiters, he hasn't played because of injury, and he's likely to have surgery, and it's probably going to be season-ending. I think he actually is going to get the surgery. As for the other players, Wayne Ellington, he's basically been a sniper off the bench, or actually I think he's been starting, but he's a sniper coming in and playing great minutes for them. And even Derrick Jones Jr., the high-fly athlete that he is, coming and playing spot minutes for them. You're just basically seeing these guys, and even Rodney McGruder, I don't even think he's played that much this year, but we're basically seeing guys who are like just professionals, people that are just working, putting their hard hats on and just grinding and getting wins, and then putting in the work to get wins. And I think that's amazing for Miami's position. Like, I did not expect them to be top 4. I thought they'll still make the playoffs, but for them to be top 4, I think is great. And I'm hoping that the All-Star reserves will pick a Miami Heat player to join them for the All-Star game. It's likely not going to happen because, again, none of the stats that these guys are putting up. If Whiteside was healthy and was putting up amazing stats, definitely, and in the wake of these wins, definitely he would get in. But as far as I'm concerned, I think Dragic has been the most consistent player, but his stats are not popping out at you. He's definitely not playing to the same level as he played in Phoenix back in 2013-14 when he made the All-NBA third team. But at the same time, what he has contributed to this team has been phenomenal to their success. And just the combination of all those players, like I described last week, has really just put them in a place where they just work together under the great coaching of Eric Spoelstra and been able to bolster themselves up to the seed that they are at now. And as for my last surprising team, I'm going to say the Clippers. And it's surprising because, and I think this gets underrated a lot of times when we talk about the Clippers. Injury is really a mug. Like, injury really destroys seasons and people's careers. Now, that is almost like maybe the most no-duh statement anyone has ever made. But really and truly, when we think about it, through the last few years of the Clippers' runs through the playoffs, obviously, Chris Paul and Blake Griffin have had their moments of not completely showing up and rising to the challenge of that their opponents present. But a lot of times injury has been a problem. Even in 2015, where they choked away their 3-1 lead to Houston in the Western Conference semifinals, prior to that, Chris Paul was injured. Now, he was able to make that great game-winning shot over Tim Duncan in the last seconds of the game, last few seconds of Game 7 of the first round. But after that, and even after that, Blake Griffin was able to, because Chris Paul had to sit out, Blake Griffin was able to propel, the Clippers to a Game 1 win in Houston to begin the series, the Western Conference semifinal series. But we see that injury has really hampered the ability of the Clippers to just remain consistently good. And so we see how in 2016, both Chris Paul and Blake Griffin went down to 2017, same thing. You know, actually, same. I think Chris Paul had some moments of injury in 2017, but he was ultimately more or less healthy for the playoffs. It was Blake Griffin that went down and was not able to play. So versus the Jazz, they ended up losing in the first round. But what we see really with the Clippers is that because of injury, they have not been able to have that sustained level of success. Now, have they choked away some leads and choked away some of their moments in the past? Sure. You can point to 2014 where, in spite of a horrendous call against the Clippers, because I think it was in Game 5 of the Western Conference semifinals versus OKC, where it was clearly off Reggie Jackson when the ball went off Reggie Jackson in the last few seconds of the fourth quarter, clearly off of him, but they ruled it, I think, off the Clippers, or they ruled it being a foul. That really screwed over the Clippers, if we're being honest. But at the same time, there were some moments that Chris Paul had where he turned the ball over and he did not perform very well in that stretch. But what we start to see is that with the Clippers having this history of injury, and we still expect so much from them, which fairly so, they have a lot of talented players, but we really look at the fact that injury has hampered them. We gotta realize that the expectations that we put on the Clippers may have been a bit unreasonable considering the circumstances of injury. Because even this year, maybe not a lot of people really believe that much in the Clippers, but they kind of expected some sort of success. But with the injuries coming, in fact, even I admitted, with the injuries that happened to Blake Griffin and Gallinari, Teodosic, Patrick Beverley, that's essentially the starting 4 of 5. With those guys going down, I wrote the Clippers off as not being able to make the playoffs, because once I started seeing them lose a lot of games, I'm like, no, they ain't making the playoffs over people like the Pelicans and Portland and Denver. Like, they're going to fall out. But what we now see is even a greater revelation outside of the injury. Now, of course, we did not expect this to happen, but Lou Williams has been balling. This man coming off the bench, you know, as Drake said in the song, 6 man like Lou Will. Well, I'm telling you, this 6 man is putting in buckets. He's putting in work. And what needs to be said is that Lou Williams, I think he's gotten better. He's really gotten better as a 6 man, even as a scorer, taking smarter shots. Even though he does jack them up still to a high degree, he's not just taking a bunch of dumb shots and just like, what are you thinking kind of shots, Lou? He's taking shots like, you know what? Even if it's contested, it's like, that's good. That's a decent shot. I'm not mad at that. Lou Williams has definitely gotten smarter as a scorer and as an overall player. Over that stretch, I'll put the stats on the screen, but he's averaged upward from 30, almost close to 30 points a game, I believe, in like a certain stretch of games. But through the success that the Clippers have enjoyed over the last week or so, it's been Lou Williams that's carrying them both in the scoring and the assisting category. He's been doing everything for the Clippers. And in fact, what needs to also be said is Blake Griffin has been back. Blake Griffin has been doing some things. Teodosic has been doing some things as well. And really, if the rest of the Clippers can get themselves healthy and Lou Williams continues to ball the way he's been balling, I think the Clippers can make the playoffs and maybe bump out someone like a Portland, like a Denver, or even like a New Orleans. Because, in fact, I'll even say as a honorable mention, New Orleans has been a bit of a surprise too, because I did not know if that combination of Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins was going to work in the front court. I thought there would be something. I thought they'd enjoy some level of success. I thought they'd work well together, because I think Davis and Cousins, they do like each other. They do like playing together. I think there's some chemistry that's there, and they recognize their talents and they're able to work off each other fairly well. But between the fact that the best 2 players are front court players, Drew Holiday, he's a decent guard, but outside of that, and then even Rondo came coming back, you know, in the last few months or so, elevating the level of that team. Outside of those guys, who do they really have left? And the team was suspect, but they've enjoyed some level of success. But is it out of the realm of possibility that any one of New Orleans, Denver, or Portland get pushed out, and then the Clippers come back in, because the Clippers do have playoff experience. Lou Williams, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, Patrick Beverly, they all have playoff experience, so they know what it takes, not just to simply get to the playoffs, but even to perform in the playoffs. So they know what it takes. So perhaps it's not out of the realm of possibility that the Clippers could make the playoffs, provided everyone stays healthy. And that's the real caveat here. Can the Clippers stay healthy enough so that they can enjoy some level of success? And really, I think that's what's going to make the difference with the Clippers. Now, will they win any rounds in the playoffs? I don't think so. Right now, I think they're a 7th seed. I don't think that they're going to stay in the 7th seed, but is it possible that will Clippers be able to challenge Houston, or if they get to the 6th seed, challenge Minnesota, or even if they slide back to the 8th seed, will they challenge Golden State? Nah, well, if we look at some of those teams I talked about, can they challenge any few of those teams? Yeah, so sure, they can probably make it a 6-7 game series with them, especially because now the Clippers are playing grittier. They're playing almost like with a sense of desperation, with a chip on their shoulders. It's like, y'all wrote us off, but screw that, we're coming to get you, kind of thing. Now, can I see that happen? Quite possibly, but they're gonna lose in the first round. The other teams are better. Now, speaking of Houston and Clippers, do y'all see, the day I'm recording this is January 16, 2018. Last night, the 15th, there was some bad blood between the Rockets and the Clippers. Now, I did not think that Chris Paul and Blake Griffin had that kind of bad blood towards each other. To me, that was actually shocking, because obviously you as opponents, you want to go against each other. You don't want to be like ha 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 kiki with your opponents. You want to have some sense of competition. But for that level of bad blood to be occurring to the point where Ariza and Griffin both got ejected in the game last night, and lots of words have been exchanged. Even Austin Rivers is getting in on it, and you're telling me that you had to call the LAPD to come and make sure that everything is okay after the game, after the spats in the locker rooms, getting to the bus. Y'all need the LAPD? Really? Come on, man. Like, the thing is, you can't make this shit up. Like, you can't script these things. Apparently, the reports were Capella, Clint Capella of the Rockets, he went to the front of the Clippers locker room and acted as a diversion, knocking on the door, basically getting the players distracted to the point where Chris Paul and a few other Rockets players, apparently Harden was in there, came from the back, because obviously Chris Paul being a former Clipper, he knows the ins and outs of the Staples Center. They come into the back for confrontation. Now, I don't know if all this is true. I'm not an insider report. I'm doing this based on what I heard of the reports. But if this is true, what is actually going on out here? Like, you're telling me these mans came in from the back, came in the back of the locker room to have a confrontation, to the point where you had security and they had to call LAPD. Mind you, the same LAPD that has to deal with riots on an on and off basis, they had to come and protect, I don't know, were they protecting Chris Paul? Were they protecting Austin Rivers? I don't know. You can't make this shit up. You really can't. You can't script this any better. I think this is comedy. But again, going back to the whole idea of the bad blood, I really didn't think it was that bad. I really did not believe that Houston's bad blood, that the bad blood, between Chris Paul and Blake Griffin was so deep to the point where they're pushing and shoving each other in the game. There was so much words being exchanged between the Rockets players and the Clippers players. They're just talking trash at each other to the point where it's really heated. And to me, it's great. It's great entertainment. It's great theater. but it really speaks to there was something really going on inside that Clippers locker room that I don't think we'll ever truly be able to know about. But there was conflict, there was tension, there was something wrong between them. And now we're starting to see this bubble out and play out in front of the public. And I think this is just, it's amazing to me, what's happened. But definitely for the Clippers, I feel if they remain healthy, if Patrick Beverley ends up, I don't know if his injury is season ending, I'm not too sure, I have to go back and check. I'll put all the stats up, but if any X amount of players, especially even if Gallinari can come back, if these guys can come back and really make an impact on the team and Lou Williams continues to do what he does off the bench, even Austin Rivers, if he can get back healthy, because Austin Rivers, he was balling too, I know Austin Rivers for most of his NBA career has been a punchline, but in the last year or so, he's played very well. And he's really shown up for moments for the Clippers where they really needed him. So if the Clippers players can get healthy and are able to impact the game the way they are now, I think they can take a playoff seed. And I think they can, push some of these top tier teams to a 6-7 game series, because the Clippers are now playing tough. They're not screwing around anymore. They're really trying to make a statement. They're really trying to make an impact, saying like, listen, you guys may be top tier, like Drake say, top five. You might be top whatever, but we don't care. We're coming for you. And I respect that. Now let's talk about the disappointing teams. The first one I want to talk about is the Charlotte Hornets. Now, I did not expect much from Charlotte to begin with, but I feel like Charlotte is always running in place. And for a team that is, I think, owned or general managed by Michael Jordan, I think there's something severely wrong with that team. Like, I think the players are solid. I think the coach is solid. Steve Clifford is a great coach. And I don't know if he's back from his health issues. I have to go back and check that. But after all that being said, you get Dwight Howard. And Dwight has played very well this year. He's not the same Dwight as before, but he definitely looks a lot more mobile, a lot more agile. Looks like he's healthier. Dwight's playing well. Kemba's playing well. You have even Kaminsky, Batum. But even with Batum, it seems like his stats have declined. I know he got injured at the beginning of the season, but he definitely has not played the same as he used to. I don't know, maybe it's just a declined role. I'm not too sure. I don't really watch a lot of Charlotte games, but the truth of that is that for a team that has seen playoff success before, pushing Miami to a 7-game series in 2016, a team that had even gotten to the playoffs in 2014 as the Bobcats, and they went versus Miami. Obviously, they weren't going to really win any games. It was LeBron and the Miami Heat. At 2014, yes, it was at it was their last run, but LeBron was not going to lose in the first round to the Bobcats. Well, then Bobcats, now Hornets. But to me, there's something wrong with that team. I can't put my finger on it. But offensively, they're really not that great. I saw the stats, 21st, in offensive rating. They're not that great. Defensively, they're solid. Obviously, with Dwight anchoring the defense, and being as a rim protector, I think that's good. And obviously, the guys in Charlotte, they're workmanlike in the way that they approach the game defensively. None of these guys are stars except for Dwight used to be an all-star, and Kemba, of course, he was an all-star last year. But outside of that, these guys aren't stars. These guys aren't big name players. They just come in, go to work, play the game, and then they go home. You know what I mean? But to me, there's something wrong with that team, and they just never seem to get any real consistent success. And I think it's kind of sad, and that's why I'm going to put them as one of the disappointing teams, because I think they could do a whole lot better. I never predicted them to be in my playoff bracket for the East. However, I had given them some consideration, because in my mind, if Charlotte plays to their potential and plays extremely well, I think they could be a bottom 4 seed of the playoffs, but they just have not performed well on a consistent basis. My next disappointing team for the season, I'd say, is the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, they lost Zach Randolph, which is one, and he's, a big part of their success. But also I saw the emergence of other Western teams, Minnesota, particularly Minnesota and Denver. So in the offseason when I saw those groups, I'm like, Memphis ain't making the playoffs. They'll be like maybe 9 or 10 in the West, but they're not going to make the playoffs. Minnesota, there's no excuses for them. They have the talent. They have the roster. They should be able to do it. And even Denver, I'm like, now they've always been borderline. Now they can really, put themselves in position to get in the playoffs. But I did not expect Memphis to be this bad. Now, Conley hasn't played. Are we suggesting that Conley is that much of an impact player for the Grizzlies that once he's out, like the Memphis Grizzlies are actually kaput without him? I think, especially with the firing of Coach Fizdale, it's kind of put Marc Gasol in a bad light. And I don't think people really rag on Marc Gasol because they know he's not that kind of person. But at the same time, Coach Fizdale was a solid coach that pushed the San Antonio Spurs last year to 6 games. Because again, San Antonio always has San Antonio and Memphis, they're rivals. They always seem to have problems with each other. But to be said here is that Memphis players, there's so much. I think there's so much turnover. Not turnover in terms of on the court basketball play, but turnover in terms of the roster. There's so many people in and out of the lineups. Like even there's that unknown people and trying to unproven products as well, trying to figure out how to gel that team together. There just seems to be, again, almost in the same vein as Charlotte, where the players that they have, I'm not going to suggest they're not talented, but they're just, Charlotte players, I think there are more talented than the Memphis players, but there's just something wrong with the construction of that team. The players are not, they're just not, I don't want to say good enough because everyone given the opportunity and with enough confidence can be able to step up and produce. But to me, there's just something wrong with that Memphis team. I can't put my finger on it, but again, it's something. Maybe it's the way that they're being coached, but then again, Fizdale. Fizdale's a great coach, but there's just maybe again they just have not. Just a struggle to try to get them to play well because, of course, some of these players are young. They still try to prove themselves, and perhaps maybe the players themselves aren't that great or aren't that good, and are still trying to figure out their way in the NBA. But to me, there's just something wrong with those players on Memphis, and the way they all come together and they play. Something is severely wrong with that, and I think that ultimately, Memphis is going to find itself in a very interesting position as to what to do with Marc Gasol and even Mike Conley. Well, Mike Conley, he ain't going nowhere. He's got freaking paid. But Gasol, one of the things I've heard is that, not from many sources, what I've read from other people. I don't got no sources. I just read stuff, okay? But one of the things that has been said is that the reason they don't move on from Marc Gasol is because he's one of the mainstays for Memphis. I think he played, I don't know if it's that he played college ball there or something like that, but he seems to be a staple in the Memphis community, and to get rid of him would essentially decrease sales of tickets for the Grizzlies organization and basically put themselves in a financial predicament. So yeah, Memphis is disappointing because I didn't think they were going to be this bad. I think even at the beginning of the season we saw, but again, Mike Conley was there, but we saw them playing very good basketball. But now it's like without Conley, the team has completely gone to shit. They have essentially fallen apart, and they're not able to really get any level of success. And with a player as great as Marc Gasol is, I think that's a shame. Really, I think it's really not. It's saying something about that Memphis Grizzlies team, the way it's constructed, and even if it goes to the front office. We're reading stuff about how the front office has not made the best of decisions for the team. So Memphis Grizzlies, one of the disappointing teams for me. A third disappointing team, and I'm going to kind of sound like Stephen A here, but I'm going to go with the Washington Wizards. Thoroughly expected them to be top 4 in the East. Now they have an opportunity to still do that, but again, there's something wrong with the Washington team that is causing them almost like they're playing outside of themselves. Like, they have the talent, they're great players, especially Wall and Beal. We always talk about them as one of the top 5 backcourts in the league. But there's something wrong with the way that they play together. Maybe they talk too much. You know, I always talk about how the Wizards, that's why I don't really trust them, because they've been talking, they said stuff like, oh, well, Cleveland didn't want to see us in the playoffs and stuff like that, but yet LeBron dropped 57 points on you guys as if, you know, you guys were nothing, and then blew you guys out the second time. I think a lot of it starts with their bench. The bench is not that great productively. You have Oubre, you have Satoransky, you have Scott, but after that, you don't really have anyone else that's really producing great. And even, you know, front court wise, obviously, or not front court, sorry, starting 5 wise, obviously Wall and Beal, they produce. But then after that, well, Porter, see, he's there, but after that, you're talking about Markieff Morris and Marcin Gortat. Are they really producing to the way that you need them to produce in order for you guys to be successful as a team? And I'm just seeing this slippage in that Washington Wizards team that is causing them to lose games it could be winning. Like last Washington went versus Milwaukee. Milwaukee came to Washington's home. Washington had ample opportunities to close out that game, but they allowed Milwaukee to get in there, not playing proper defense, and also just not sustaining the lead that they had, not sustaining any leads or any momentum that they had built. Milwaukee would just snatch it from them, and then eventually just put their imprint on the game, and then murder she wrote, the game is done, Milwaukee wins. So again, Washington is still the 5th seed. It's not bad. Things can still change. There's still plenty of time left. Miami, will they continue to sustain that level of success and remain a top 4 seed, top 4 candidate? I think that it's very possible. Can Washington, you know, come back to form and show themselves to be a top 4 team in the East? I think that's possible too. But right now, Washington has to figure themselves out and recognize, look, we're not that, we're good, we're talented, but we have to come together and approach not let our game do the talking. Let us not be talking, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let us together put together quality games, quality wins, and just put ourselves in contention so that come playoff time, we're able to take care of business versus teams that we believe that we're better than, and then also be able to put ourselves in position to compete with the higher seeded teams in the East. Now, I don't want to talk too much about Cleveland, and well, they lost to Golden State yesterday, but I'm at a point where we know what Cleveland's capable of. And especially a team with LeBron James, you never write off. And I'm not by any means writing off the Cavs. I think they're going to come out the East. The road to get out the East will be tougher, but I think they're going to come out the East. But we're seeing something. What Golden State has is special. It's amazing. They are top. I say top, not top 5, not top 3. They are number 1 in multiple offensive categories. But it's not just simply they're great on offense, they're great on defense. And to me, this is the difference between Warriors and Cavs. And now, saw glimpses of Cavs playing good defense yesterday. But the issue is that the defense of the Cavs, it's not consistent. And because of that, when the Warriors come to play them, they're able to fend off the Warriors for a little bit. And I think sometimes it's even the Warriors, they're just not as focused offensively, even though I think the Cavs do bother them defensively. But all Golden State needs is that one run. They don't need a bunch of runs. They just need that one run. That one special run toward the end of the game that puts them out of reach from the Cavs. That's what it is, or even the Warriors just in general, even when they struggle. I mean, obviously there are multiple runs within the game, but there's just that one specific run that puts them, that distances themselves from the other team to the point where the other team cannot come back and cannot overcome. Because Golden State, not only do they play great offensively, and especially if you're not a good defensive team, they'll capitalize on your defensive weaknesses. But then they come back on the other side and they play hellacious defense and stop you from trying to score. And again, with the Cavs offense, it's top 3. The Cavs offense is great, mostly because of LeBron. But when the ball stops moving, when the Cavs are not able to get those easy shots off of movement, off of motion, we see they grind to a halt and it ends up being LeBron ISO, Isaiah Thomas ISO, and Isaiah Thomas still hasn't gotten his legs back. To see that how the Cavs struggle both on defense, and then when the Golden State Warriors clamp down their defense and start to make life harder for Cavs on offense, we see that Cavs are not able to really sustain any consistent level of success versus the Warriors. And I think that's going to be concerning. Cavs can get out the East. I don't think that's necessarily a problem. Can they beat the Warriors? I want them to, but the Warriors just look so much better, man. It pains me to say it. And the thing is, the Warriors are a great team. By no means am I hating on the fact that they're a great team. I really just hate a lot of the bandwagoner fans and a lot of the hype. But they are really, and of course KD joining the Warriors, but they're a great team. There's no doubt they're transcendentally great. I'm using the big words that the people on FS1 are using. But they are great. There's no doubt that the Warriors are not great. Warriors are great. But if Cavs are going to be their competition, the Cavs need to step it up and consistently play defense. And not just defense, but on offense, make a concerted effort to move the ball, to get proper motion, to put the Warriors out of position. Because the one thing you want to do is catch the Warriors slipping. Because the Warriors, they feel themselves a lot. Here's the good thing of the Warriors. That the Warriors can't be had. The Warriors can definitely be had. Because if you catch them slipping, catch them being cocky, very cocky to the point they start to lose their principles and their discipline, they can be had and they can be beaten. But the thing is, you have to be able to do what it takes to beat them. But again, I don't want to talk too much about the Cavs and Warriors, because I think until the Cavs just get their shit together, Warriors to me are the dominant team. They're the clear favorites to win the championship once again. I just think the Cavs just need to find ways to build themselves up and just get back to a point where they're just consistently great. Defense, great defensively, like top 10, or sorry, not top 5, at least be top 10. Hell, at least be top 15. That's all I'm asking. Just be top 15. Be between 10 and 15. That's at least decent defense so that you can be able to at least give the Warriors some trouble. But yeah. 2 more teams I want to talk about. Obviously, Raptors. I'm a Raptors fan. I gave them a lot of praise in my last, especially the first episode, and the last episode I gave them some praise, but I was more concerned about the patterns that they showed versus the Nets. Last Thursday they played a great game versus Cleveland. Maybe you want to argue it was more bad Cleveland than it was good Raptors. Fair enough. Once they really come to play, and Raptors took full advantage of it. But give credit to the Raptors. They played very well. They rose to that occasion, and they just wanted to put their foot down on LeBron and the Cavs. But the one thing I'm concerned about with the Raptors, Jack Armstrong, he mentioned this. He's one of the color commentators for the Raptors. the low. It's about habits. And it's important, even as a basketball fan and even just as a human being, to be able to step back and understand basketball players are human too. That just with everything else involves the formation of habits that put you in a position to be great. And I think that with the Raptors, they have shown the potential to be great, to the point they are a top 5 team in the NBA. But what will get them to get to the next step is that consistent, habitual practice of showing up to games, playing up to the competition, not playing down to quote unquote lesser competition, but coming to the game, remembering what got you there in the first place, and then playing the way that makes you successful. I saw that versus, because they played Golden State on Saturday. That first half was a decimation. It was a clinic by the Warriors. But it was not simply the Warriors. The Raptors, and of course they didn't have Lowry, they had Ibaka at that point. They didn't have Lowry. But to me, Lowry was not so much of a difference maker that Toronto could not compete with the Warriors. I think Lowry is obviously instrumental to the success of the Raptors, but not to an 81-point difference in the first half by the Warriors. No. What I ended up seeing in the second half was the Raptors getting back to their principles. And of course, we can say, did Golden State get complacent, take the foot off the gas? Sure. The Raptors got back to their principles. They said, we have to defend, we have to move the ball. Those are the two key things that would make us a great team, especially in this season especially in this specific season where we have changed our culture and changed our system. The Raptors now recognize we have to understand that in order for us to be great, we have to play our principles. They did that, and they made Golden State sweat for that last half, to the point where the Raptors were in position to take the lead. Now, there were still slippages, there were still points where but really and truly, it took the Golden State to have to be great. Steph Curry had to make a contested shot, and even KD had to make a couple. Well, one was not so much contested because I think it was Fred VanVleet that ended up being on him. Kevin Durant didn't shoot over him. And Siakam, he kind of had a hand there, but not really. But it took Warriors having to make shots to be able to distance themselves from the Raptors to a point where, even though it was still a close game, but at least keep the door, to close the door and push the Raptors out. This is what disturbed me even further. Same thing versus Philadelphia yesterday. They allowed, I turned on the TV. Third quarter, what do I see? Philadelphia 89, Toronto 71. What the actual fact? I was like, y'all not gonna win anything that way. And the sad part is too, Lowry was playing. Does Philadelphia have great players? Of course. They have Ben Simmons. They have Joel Embiid. They also have great solid players. Now again, Philadelphia, because they're a young team and inexperienced, they started to make a lot of mistakes, allowed the Raptors to get back in it, and the Raptors still ended up having to be great. But I really started to see concerning trends. And I'm saying to myself, Raptors, if you guys want to be great, you have to continue to build on the principles that made you great. You have to do the things that made you what you are today. If you want to show the league and put fear in the hearts of the people in the league, if you want to put fear in the hearts of other teams in the league and say, we are for real, we're not going anywhere, we're going to stand up to you, but we're going to fight. Now, Raptors have no quit. I will give them that. Even when they screw up in the first half and they find themselves struggling, they still find a way to make the game interesting and make the game close. But they wouldn't have to do that if they played to their principles from the jump. And I guess that's a lesson really that can learn. That in order for any of us to be great at what we do, we have to do the things that first of all we have to do the things that got us to the point of being great. But even secondly and more importantly, we have to be consistently doing it from the jump, do what the things and build upon the habits that or the way we are today, like made us good and great to begin with. And so the idea of habits really comes into play here. And again, this is what I even talked about last week with Cleveland. We know what they're capable of. And that's the thing. And this is the same thing even with the Raptors. I know what the Raptors are capable of. I know if they played solidly and played the way they know how to play, they're a top 5, top 3 team in the league. And they can beat any of these top teams. I believe had the Raptors, even if they had Larry and they played the way they played in the second half throughout the whole game, they could have very well beaten Golden State. I believe that. Cleveland could have beaten Golden State yesterday had they played the way they know how to play consistently, be it defensively and offensively. However, build those habits to begin with, or you don't fall back on those good habits that you've learned. The results are losses and failures. Now, of course, failure and loss can still happen even in the midst of doing your best. But at least if you failed by doing your best, at least you knew you did your best, you did what you could. Just this time, you have to give it up to the other team. Give them a hand, go to the half-court line, shake their hand, say, great game. Hell of a game. You played great, I played great. And move on to the next game. But you're only able to do that if you build on the habits that you formed. And those are lessons that we can take in our daily lives as well. You know, we could never say about a LeBron James team in the past. We could never say a LeBron James team don't play defense. Miami Heat years and in the early Cavs years, we can never say a LeBron James team don't play defense. Now, does LeBron cheat on defense time to time? Yeah, he does. He plays free safety. But when it comes time to lock down, LeBron will lock down the point guard. He'll lock down the center. He'll do whatever it takes defensively to get his team to the position they need to be in. Now, of course, can LeBron sustain a consistent level of play on defense while heavily running the offense? Probably not. Especially at his age and him trying to conserve his body. But at the same time, what needs to be said, you know, to the Cavs team on the whole is that what made you great is defense. Those games that you won versus Golden State in 2016 en route to a championship, you held them under, You held them under 100 points most times. And even when they got 100 points, it was low hundreds. They weren't blowing you out consistently. You held them. You kept them in check. Now has to be done with Cleveland now. Get back to the principles that made you great. What made you great? Defense. Offensive movement. Just simply LeBron or bust on offense. And it's not just simply we're going to outscore you, but we're also going to defend and lock you up. Alright, y'all. Now this is the part of the video where I'm going to take some of your suggestions and ideas. I'm going to talk about it on the show. My friend John, he asks, is another Cavs v Warriors finals a definite? And who has the best chance of knocking out the Warriors in the East and West respectively? Now, I think that's a great question. In my mind, I think Cavs Warriors Part 4, it's a collision course. It's not so much that it's as definite as years past. There is more competition in both conferences, but I really believe that at the end of the day, a LeBron-led James team that plays decent defense and great offense will come out the East. Warriors, although you have the Rockets, the Spurs, maybe even want to throw in the Clippers because of how they've, and the Thunder, even Minnesota. Could any of these teams give Golden State a run for their money? I think so. But I think at the end of the day, Warriors are just a much superior team. They're just so high-powered. Particularly offensively, it's not funny. And defensively, they're disciplined and they're locked down. When it's time to put the clamps down, they put the clamps and they stop teams from scoring. And that's really important. I think Cavs and Warriors will definitely get to the finals this year, but it will be a harder road. If we want to talk about to knock out the Warriors in the East and West respectively, and I think the interesting thing is that I think a team like Boston, and by no means am I a Celtics fan, but a team like Boston, because they play defense, they can make the Warriors' lives hell. The only problem is that, can they get past the Cavs? That's really the issue, because I think at the end of the day, the Cavs are a better team than the Celtics, especially with Al Hayward. And because of that, the Cavs will beat Boston. So in order for the Boston to even meet the Warriors in the finals, they'd have to get past the Cavs. I don't think they're going to do that. But I think Boston matches up better with Golden State defensively. Now, offensively, the better team is the Cavs. Cavs can go tete-a-tete with the Warriors. They can actually score point for point with the Warriors when Cavs are clicking on all cylinders. But because of their lack of defense or their problems on defense, the Warriors exposes the Cavs, and therefore they end up blowing out the Cavs sometimes, and they end up just getting that one run that pushes the Cavs out the window. So in the East, I give it to Boston in a sense. Like, I think defensively Boston, offensively Cleveland. Now, of course, I like to say the Raptors, yes, but Lord knows they have to really stick to their principles and their habits. I think they just need some more experience in order for them to be considered a serious threat to the Warriors in a 7-game series. As for other teams in the East, well, Milwaukee gives anyone problems, but again, for any team to really compete with the Warriors, they have to pass the Cavs. And I think at the end of the day, the Cavs are the cream of the crop in the East. They will ultimately be victorious. It's essentially LeBron's world, and all the other Eastern teams are living in it. How about the West? That's tough. That's really tough, because I feel as if when Harden is healthy, because the Rockets are capable of playing the same style as the Warriors, the three-point shooting and everything, and with the offensive firepower that they have, I think they have the best chance to go at the Warriors and compete with them and beat them. But we have to look at the Rocket system from this perspective. D'Antoni is a great coach, but one of the things that has been said about him is his lack of attention to detail. And I think that Steve Kerr will show himself to be the better coach than D'Antoni. And not even just that, but if the Rockets do not play consistent defense, I think they play good defense because they have grittier players now. They have defenders on that team in addition to the shooters. They're just a much better product. They're just more polished. They're just better than Houston. So as a result, I think Golden State will still beat Houston. One thing about, I want to say Spurs, but the thing with the Spurs again, it's going to hinge heavily upon Kawhi Leonard's health. But Kawhi Leonard, when healthy, with Aldridge playing well, can give the Warriors some problems. And of course, Popovich is a great coach, and the system of the Spurs is always there. But me, it's just a matter of how well the players of the Spurs will work within that system to be able to go against the defense of the Warriors. Again, the Warriors can be had, but I think, again, the Warriors are just a more superior team. I want to say OKC Thunder, but again, offensively, they're too inconsistent. Even defensively, the Thunder is just too inconsistent. So if I was to give who has the best chance of knocking off the Warriors in the West, I really have to give it to Houston. They're too young, and even Timberwolves, in fact, right now they're third in the West, but I think Timberwolves are still too young. They still have some work to do, but I think in the future the Timberwolves will be a problem for the Warriors. Right now I'm going to give it to Houston, but again, Houston is showing some cracks in their play, especially with Chris Paul at the helm. In fact, even Kristen, he was telling me yesterday the Houston Rockets are basically playing the Clippers. They're playing like the Clippers because Chris Paul, he's holding the ball. He's not really playing the D'Antoni system. Harden is much more dynamic and plays within the system better. But if James Harden is not healthy, Houston has no shot. If James Harden is healthy and Houston plays to their potential, both offensively and defensively, I think they can give the Warriors a lot of trouble. But ultimately, I think Warriors are still the better team, the more polished team, the more well-rounded team, and they'll win. I have another question here, and this one's from Frank. Where will LeBron James' career be? Like, where will his career be when he is retired? Will he ever beat Michael Jordan on the all-time scoring list? And how many rings will he finish with when he's retired? You ask me what do I think about that? For greatest topics in sports, it's really LeBron James' legacy. Where does he fit among the all-time greats? When it's all said and done. With Durant passing 20,000 points last week, and LeBron closing in on 30,000, there are serious talks about can either one of them catch Kareem's all-time scoring total of almost 39,000 points. Now, it all hinges upon how long LeBron can play. I think LeBron can definitely play into his 40s, into his early 40s. I'd say maybe he'll terminate around 40, 41. Because at the end of the day, Father Time is undefeated. The possibility is that if he continues to average the points he's averaging, even if he averages like 25 points, I have to go back and get the math, but the math was done such that he'll definitely catch Kareem. He'll definitely pass Michael Jordan. If Kobe passed Michael Jordan, LeBron will definitely pass Michael Jordan, because I think LeBron would be the youngest player to reach 30,000. So I think he'll definitely pass Michael Jordan in terms of all-time scoring list. I think it's more so the real question would be, will LeBron be able to pass? Well, I think we'll be able to pass Kareem. Will he be able to get to even further up on the top of the all-time scoring list? The question is, how many rings will he finish with? That's tough, man. The Warriors are going to make it hard for LeBron to win more championships. Is it out of the realm of possibility? No. I think if Cleveland really and legitimately gets their defense together and LeBron is transcendentally great, I love using that word now. All these sports analyst shows using it too. But LeBron has an amazingly great series and the defense plays well. I think Cleveland can win a ring this year. LeBron's success, ironically, even though he's in control of his own destiny, LeBron's success will hinge upon his success. LeBron could potentially finish his career with 5 rings. He could get, if he decides to leave Cleveland after, let's say this year, let's say he wins a ring and maybe decides to go somewhere else, or even if he doesn't win a ring this year, he could win probably 1 more ring with another team. But he could potentially finish with 5 rings. I can see him finishing with 5. But in order for that to happen, LeBron James has to be on a team that can really be able to go at the Warriors. Because the Warriors are the threat to LeBron's success. And they're really the threat to LeBron getting more championships under his belt. Because the team together is just so great. But as soon as the Warriors start to have slippage, it was there for someone like LeBron or even other players to take advantage of it and be able to win rings. So I'm going to say LeBron can finish with 5. More realistically, he might finish with 4, but I'll give him 5. I like LeBron. I like his chances. Again, I don't want to get too hung up on the whole. I'm always, redirected and encouraged not to think too much about LeBron's finals losses, because we look at those losses. The one we could really, really blame him for was 2011 versus the Dallas Mavericks. But outside of that, 2007 is not his fault. Spurs were clearly better. 2014, well, the Spurs again just ran roughshod on them on the Miami Heat, because they just put on a clinic, basically played the beautiful game of basketball. 2015, he didn't have Kyrie or Love in the finals. And 2017, well, just better. They had Kevin Durant, and the defense just did not play well. LeBron did his job. He averaged a triple-double. So 3 and 5 all time in finals in terms of win-losses with the finals. But outside of that, I mean, I think he can get another. I think he can get another ring or 2. I'm gonna say he'll finish with 4 or 5. To his career achievements, I think he'll definitely be top 2, top 3 in scoring. He'll definitely be top 5. I think maybe rebounding, top 5 in assists. I think he will crack. I don't have all the stats in front of me, but he'll definitely crack some of these top categories. He'll definitely. Aaron suggested to me the idea that LeBron is better than Jordan, and every time the idea of the GOAT conversation between LeBron and Jordan comes up, I'm always on the fence, because I hear great arguments from both. I see the arguments made for both. I see the stats. I see the careers. I see the achievements, and I'm just like, you could really go either way with this. I think for now, I'd still lean toward Jordan for now, because Jordan has accomplished more. But when all is said and done, LeBron is going to accomplish a lot. Maybe not the same amount of rings as Jordan. And honestly, I hate the 6-0 argument. Jordan 6-0, 6-0, 6-0. Bullshit. That doesn't matter. Well, no pun intended. But Jordan has not lost the finals series, but he's also lost a lot of playoff series too, as well. He may be perfect in the finals, but have you ever considered that's probably just the quality of teams that he's played, and that the Bulls just matched up better with whatever team came out of the West. But in the East, Jordan took a long time to get past the Celtics, and then again he took some time to get past the Pistons. And even in '95, when he came back, you can say he's rusty and stuff, he still lost to the Magic in 6. So at the end of the day, Jordan has had his slip-ups. We gotta stop acting like Jordan is some sort of god. He's not. I mean, I know Larry Bird said he's god in basketball form, in the form of a basketball player, but at the end of the day, he's not without his faults and without his flaws. So when it's all said and done, I'm going to say, for now, I'm going to say Jordan is still better because of just how he's accomplished. But when we take, and this kind of goes in the same vein, as Frank's question, I think when it's all said and done, LeBron's career achievements will be basically on par with Jordan's achievements minus the ring count. Like, especially if LeBron gets the MVP this year, which is still very likely, but obviously you still have James Harden, you still got KD, Steph Curry. You should even honestly put Jimmy Butler in the MVP discussion. Aldridge, DeRozan. I think these guys, because of how they've led their teams, these guys deserve to be in the conversation. Obviously, I don't think they're going to win MVP, but it's really going to. If LeBron could really win his 5th MVP, that'll definitely raise the stakes. Because Jordan, I think he had 6 MVPs overall, or was it 5? I don't remember. But done. LeBron will score more points than Jordan. He'll definitely have more rebounds, and he'll definitely have more assists. So the 3 major statistical categories. And he'll definitely shoot better than Jordan from both the field and from specifically the 3-point line. Jordan will have the greater free throw percentage because LeBron, I think that's the one thing with LeBron is still struggling to figure out is that free throw. But anyway, the other accomplishments, all NBA, all defensive team. The thing is, Jordan will still top in the all defensive teams as well, but LeBron will definitely have a lot more NBA, especially NBA first, all NBA first teams. All stars, I think he'll surpass him in that because LeBron will definitely have a longer career than Jordan. There's no mistaking that. So he'll have more time to accomplish what Jordan had accomplished in his career. But again, that's on Jordan as well. It's not, it's not, you can't fault Jordan. LeBron is just taking longer to accomplish all these goals. No, Jordan, his body was not right. Even his mind was not right at certain points in his career where he took time off. So therefore he didn't play as long. LeBron has the longevity argument, and he has chosen to play for all that time, and therefore puts himself in a position to become more, and essentially race in terms of career accomplishments. Now, I think one thing that needs to be said, and my dad brought this up as a great point as well. The eras are different. Every player has been great in his or her era, and sometimes to do the cross-era comparisons isn't right and isn't fair to specific players because really and truly, the LeBron and Jordan argument, and I'm not saying used to belittle one player over the other. You see people, when people try to go pro LeBron, they end up belittling Jordan. They're saying like, he had all these losses in the beginning of his career, or he was not the great teammate or stuff like that. And then the pro Jordan people will always be like, LeBron's not clutch. He's 3-5 in the finals. Jordan is 6-0. And they belittle LeBron's accomplishments. But really, every player has been great in his or her era. Jordan was great in the 90s. LeBron is great today. And it's important to recognize their play styles are completely different. LeBron is not the shooter that Jordan is. Although LeBron is more efficient from the field, he's a driver, he's a slasher, he kicks out, he's a passer of the ball, more so than his analog really would be someone like a Magic Johnson because of how he's a big dude who, even though he's listed as a small forward, he can really play point guard and pass the rock, pass the ball, and facilitate offense. Jordan, although he was capable of doing that, because there are moments where I think he averaged a near triple-double, or he was averaging like 38 and 8, like the seasons in the 80s he did that, but the impact was just not as great as what LeBron is doing. And Jordan's thing is more of a scorer. He's willing to take the last shot. He's willing to take all that kind of stuff. Can we say LeBron doesn't like to take the last shot? I don't even know if that's even really true. We always just see LeBron make the pass out to the player and make the right basketball play. And people say, okay, that's not clutch. Kobe would never do that. Jordan would never do that. The greats would always take the last shot. But LeBron knows how to play the game the right way. Now, one of the other things against LeBron, they always say is that, oh, LeBron, he takes rest, or especially Skip Bayless always loves to say this, oh, LeBron needs help. Is it that time of the year again? Oh, LeBron, he needs help, he needs help. Shit, he needs help, because if his team ain't shit and ain't playing properly, yeah, fuck yeah, he needs help. Like, the Warriors are so crazily great, and they're just so potent. Offense you need someone to ride with you to help you. Last year, LeBron had Kyrie, and offensively that was good, but defensively couldn't do anything. Other things that I've even learned about LeBron through his career, and there's one thing, is a takeaway lesson as well. LeBron did things his way. At one point he said, you know what, fuck the haters, fuck everyone else who's talking trash to me. They can say whatever they want. They don't know me. They don't know who I am as a person. They don't fully know what it takes, except for the players who actually, won the championships, but more so for the media people that have not been in that situation, playing the sport. They don't know what it takes. They don't know what I'm doing to make myself. They're not fully aware of what I do to make myself to be ready for these games. LeBron is just such an intelligent player that he knows at the end of the day, he's not going to just bust his ass for no reason. He's not going to lay his body on the line for a regular season win when the rest of his team ain't doing shit. He recognizes that at the end of the day, I have to preserve my body, preserve myself for the times and the moments where it truly counts. Back in the 90s, you can say the mentality is more the tough guy mentality. Oh, doesn't matter what it is, you have to win and you have to rise and shine to that occasion, and you gotta put the smack down on the people. So therefore, you see a lot of times, and especially people who are just, but again, LeBron is a crazy competitor too, but especially people like Jordan that kind of have that really psycho mentality. He would really just try to come at you every evening. The question is that sustainable? And at the end of the day, Jordan still took a year and a half away from basketball. There's a reason for that. Whether you want to say it's mental or physical fatigue, there is something that caused him to take time and retire from ball, such that when he came back for the night, especially for the '96 season, he was much better and better equipped to be able to take his Bulls to another championship run. But even then, he still needed help. He still needed Scottie Pippen. The last three-peat, he needed Dennis Rodman. Before it was Kukoc. Before it was Steve Kerr. John Paxson, B.J. Armstrong, Horace Grant. He still needed players to help him. And similarly, with LeBron, he needs players to help him. He can't just do everything himself. And I think it's important just to recognize LeBron's just overall intelligence and approach to the game. He recognizes what it takes in order to sustain a certain level of longevity in the league. He's been in the league for 15 years and is playing arguably his best basketball. There's a reason for that. He's smart. He knows how to take care of his body. And he knows how to handle and approach each game. And that's really a lesson for us to take as well. You gotta learn, at the end of the day, people are always gonna have thoughts and ways for which we should live our lives. And for them, it's very well successful for them. But what's successful for for one person, may not be successful for another person. Success is in a sense, it's relative. It's not absolute. My level of success may not be another person's level of success. If the level of success I end up achieving is of myself, for myself. Same thing with LeBron. We compare him to Jordan, saying, Jordan's 6-0. You're not getting the same amount of rings as him. And even if you do, you have a lot of losses. But LeBron's success is not simply defined by finals wins, losses. It's defined by, okay, what did I do in my entire career? What have I accomplished? And if at the end of the day, I end up being top 5, top 10 in all major statistical categories, if I end up, even if I lose a few more finals, but if I still get to 10, 11, 12 finals, and I win 4 or 5 of them, in total, that's still successful. It still means that I was so dominant in where I was that I was still able to get to the finals, where I was able to compete for a chance to get a championship. LeBron's success is not defined by Jordan's success, but it's defined by LeBron's success. And similarly, that's the same thing with us. You know, other people's success does not define our own success. We find our lane, and as LeVar Ball says, stay in your lane. But we find our lane. We find what we like, we find what we enjoy, and we find success in there. Whether it's quote unquote big or small, relatively speaking to others, doesn't matter. Does it make us happy? Do we get fulfillment? And are we benefiting ourselves? That's the most important thing. So I'll leave it at that. Thanks guys, thanks for watching my video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys have any other suggestions or ideas you guys want me to talk about, please leave it in the Twitter, hit me up on Instagram, ask me what you guys want to see, and I'll definitely bring it up. Willing to talk about anything basketball related, even if you have something life related. You know, I'm willing to bring it up and we can have a great conversation together. So thanks again for tuning in. Till next time, thanks for watching. Take care.